Hello, witches, and welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Okay, good start. Grab your coat. I grabbed my fish because we have a very special episode today. Oh, we're getting repeats. I love this. It's going to be a show of technical difficulties. This makes me so happy. It's not just me. Hello, witches, and welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Do you hearing that twice? Good start. Grab your coat.
Yep.
Oh, my fish.
Somebody's watching the YouTube channel and did not pause it.
I love this.
Who has the YouTube channel on?
I have it on silent.
Not me.
Not me. Not I said the dog.
I have it on, but mine's muted.
Not I said the witch.
Oh, all right. Should we start over? Can we know? Deja vu. Bum, bum, bum. Hello, witches. Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. It is Wednesday. It is the day that witches talk about witches in movies. I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. Let me pass it on to my beautiful co-host, starting with the lovely, lovely Heather Greene.
Hi, I am Heather Greene, and I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, A Critical History of Witches in America Film and Television. And yes, of course, this movie is in my book. I am also an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, working with some fantastic witchy authors, and also a journalist covering all things in the pagan and cult community. One of my articles did come out today. So if you go to my socials, you'll find some links to my latest article. So that's me.
Thank you. Jason.
I'm Jason Mankey. I am also a Llewellyn person, having written 10 books for Llewellyn. Alas, Heather is not my editor. My latest book is this, High Priest, a biography of Raymond Buckland. Little known fact that is not true. Raymond Buckland was an advisor for this film.
What?
Little known fact that is not true. Raymond Buckland was an advisor for this film.
I was listening.
So moving on to Courtney.
That's me. My ears are not on. Maybe it was me having all that reverb. I don't know. Anyway, I'm Courtney Buckley, Ghost Bait on Scared and Alone. Happy birthday, Heather. And I'm excited to talk about this movie tonight. And hopefully, I'm going to try really hard not to sing, but I can't make any promises.
Never make any promises on that. And last and never ever least, Richard-Lael.
All hail Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a... That's right. I'm known as the gentleman psychic. I'm a psychic medium. I used to be a psychic small, but I gained some weight. I am here in New Orleans. I am a little bit of everywhere. I am really easy to find.
Thank you very much. And yes, happy birthday, Heather. I do just released this week my first Llewellyn book. This is one of my sample copies. I am just thrilled to have all about haunted dolls and all about magical puppets just released literally this week. So I don't have 10 yet, but I've got my first one out. Yay. So this week's movie, we've been waiting for this one for a long time, I do believe. It is the choice of Heather for her birthday. It is The Little Mermaid. I'm sure you've all seen it, but just in case somebody has missed it, Richard-Lael, do you have an unbiased synopsis of this?
I certainly do.
All right.
So here's the story about how my life got turned upside down. Picture it, Sicily, 1989. I was just a wee lad, and I was obsessed with stuff, lots and lots of stuff. Things never change. Fast forward, I'll tell you the story. A mentally deficient fish wishes to be human. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. And then she falls trap with a not so convincing drag queen octopussy, who is a witch, by the by, who tells her, by the way, I'm going to take your voice and I'll give you legs, but in the original version, every time you walk, it's going to hurt, like knives, stabbing into your brain, stabbing stabbing pain. So nonetheless, this fish, this mentally incapacitated fish woman, does sign the scroll. She does become human, even though her crab friend, her fish friend, her seagull friend have all warned her, you don't want to go up there because humans are garbage. She goes up there. They try to kill her friends. Of course they do, because that's what humans do. But she's in love with this man that she saved once from drowning, and he himself is mentally deficient and doesn't recognize her and marries who else? Someone else who is also a more convincing version of a drag queen fish octopussy. Oh, so, of course, battle ensues. She has to kiss. She has to be kissed. True love's kiss. And then she goes up to the tower. She realizes my computer is acting weird. I'm going to hit cancel again. I don't know. I'm still here? Okay. So she realizes that she cannot actually kill the prince, and she leaps from the tower and she turns into sea foam. Oh, wait. That's not the Disney version. That's the real version. No. She ends up by kissing the prince, getting her voice back, being turned back into human, and being able to stay and bringing peace and joy and harmony between the fish world and the human world. They live happily ever after, excepting for the poor drag queen fish octopussy, who is dead. The end. Roll credits. Oh, I forgot a couple of things. A horny priest, a phallic cover art, dead fish. That's about it. Roll credits.
Thank you. Now that we have the complete plot line of everything, we'd like to turn this over to Miss Heather. We know this is in your amazing book about these such things. Take it from here. Is there 5 things we do need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to warn you, before I did my witch book, I spent most of my witch book. You figure it out. And I spent my undergraduate my graduate career studying film and doing all this historiography stuff focused on Disney animation. Not only did I grow up loving Disney, but I spent my graduate years studying Disney animation, specifically doing my dissertation on princess films. So I'm going to try not to overrun the show with wanting to talk about it, because it's not only in my book, but also in my original long historiography of Disney animation princess things. So, but I will get to some basics. I will talk about the originals. I will do the lead up to what made this movie so amazing for Disney and for our culture. I will talk about some controversy and then the witch. And I'm going to keep it brief as possible, so we're not here for 3 hours. Basics. They began in 1985, and it was released in 1989. And it was directed by Clements and Musker, 2 familiar names. I think it was Clements who came up with the idea originally. Then they hired Ashman and Menken, 2 very well-known Broadway folks, lyricist and music writer, to do the music. They wrote Little Shop of Horrors, if you aren't familiar with their names. It starred Jodie Benson, another big name on Broadway at the time. And they chose to pick a few. They had well-known actors. This was one of the first times they really started doing this. They started up in the game. Buddy Hackett, Samuel E. Wright was Sebastian. He was well-known. His voice was very well-known at the time. Those are just examples. Disney stepped up his game, pulling in famous names known from outside in one capacity or the other. We haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh boy, do I have stuff to talk about.
I'm not there yet. So that's the basics. Now, the origins, as Richard-Lael has mentioned, is an 1837 tale by Hans Christian Andersen called The Little Mermaid. I'm not going to pronounce it in its original language because I can't. But it had another origin. So after that, we can talk about fairy tales and all that, and whether we like which version better, what the problems are with both. But that's the origin of this. It's not exact, as Richard-Lael says, but it is one of the closer ones that Disney has done, but it's not exact. The other origin of this is Walt Disney himself, who wanted to produce The Little Mermaid back in the 30s. He had actually gotten concept drawings done, watercolors that were used. They were inspiration for Fantasia, but they were also going to be inspiration for this movie he was going to do on The Little Mermaid. It never transpired. When they started working on this movie in 1985, 86, and they were doing the research, they came across those watercolors. I'm not sure if we have one of those available to put up. They're different. They're not exact. They don't.
Ooh.
There's one. Well, yes,
Wow.
yeah, they're really cool watercolors. But they were not. They were done by Kay Nielsen, who died in 1957. So he was an old timer from that period, and he obviously, and the movie never got made. So here we are in the 1980s. They discovered, Disney wanted to do it too. So they felt like they were really hearkening back to Disney's ideas, not only because they were bringing us back to the origins of the princess story that made Disney famous in animation from the beginning, or made them famous in terms of animated films. They had him, they had his backing because he wanted to do this. So it really felt good to them, they said. Number 3, why was this so big? So after Disney died, the company was kind of in flux for a lot of years. We've talked about some of the movies that were made in the 70s and even into the 80s were not so good. Exactly, Jason. Some of them, we like some of them, but they don't have the power. We do. The Rescuers I was a big fan of the
I
Rescuers.
like the Rescuers, and there's a naked scene in that one too.
Yes, there is.
I saw that in the drive-in. I always forget about the Rescuers.
Right. There are a lot of beloved. I mean, we talked about Black Cauldron, one of the biggest disasters Disney. What happened was in the early 80s, briefly, the company was finally had new management. It was Eisner and Katzenberg, and they had a new idea for the Disney company. It was becoming more corporate, more focused. They had new, fresh ideas. So they got rid of the rest of the stuff throughout the 80s. This became the project. This was the relaunch of Disney animation, feature animation, hearkening back to the cultural power it had years ago. And it not only brought in, like I said, Disney himself wanted to do this story, but it also brought in music back in the same way as the early, much stronger. It brought in the Disney princess scenario. This is a formula that worked and worked and worked. For the most part, they brought it back. And here you go. You have The Little Mermaid. And it hit. It was hugely popular. It revived Disney animation. Katzenberg was in charge at this time of Disney animation. So that's sort of the Reader's Digest version of how this panned out. So the controversy, we already saw an image. So that's not the controversy. There's the controversy. I have my own copy right here, and I've got the real story behind what actually happened. So basically, when the movie came out, there was a movie version of this. Okay, this is the tape. So there was yes, it has a tape in it. Anyone ever seen it? Remember these guys? Be Kind or Not?
Whoa.
I know, right? Blast from the past, man. So the actual theatrical poster had a similar picture, not exactly this one, but it did have the castle. It was done. If you look at it, it's different. There's more detail added to it. It's a lot different. So the guy tells the story. I think his name was Bill Morrison, I believe is his name. He did that cover work. It was contracted. It was not a Disney employee that did it. They loved the cover. Then the people that were getting ready to do the VHS release wanted to use a similar cover. They loved it. So they had the guy do it, but they had to do it rush. It took them a really long time, and they didn't have that much time to actually create this piece of art. So he did it overnight, pretty much worked through the evening. This is what the story he tells. He worked through the night, worked through the evening, worked through the morning hours, and sent it off. There's not as much detail in it. It was rush job. And it was sent out. Disney had no problem with it. Everybody approved it. it got put onto the VHS cassettes. And then some woman or some man in Arizona freaked out when they saw it and said it was pornographic. Look closely so you can see. They said it was pornographic and inappropriate, and they made a whole big issue out of it. Stores were covering them in paper bags. Eventually, of course, Disney pulled it from the shelves and redid the cover totally. Looks to nothing like this. And they supposedly were going to fire the person who created this because there was all kinds of speculation. Was it on purpose? Was it a satanic? Of course, a satanic panic. Was it a Satanist that did it? Was it a gay person that got outed at the company? I mean, there was all kinds of controversy. But meanwhile, it was just a rush job, and no one noticed until it got to some family in Arizona. Poor children saw it. Oh my goodness! So a Karen launched the whole controversy, and to this day, there's all kinds of stories about what actually happened. But it really was just a big mistake. The guy did not get
Good,
fired.
he shouldn't have.
Because the penis mightier.
And the wedding scene, the bulge is
No,
knee.
that is the tiniest knee I've ever
most
seen.
certainly.
That is
It
the
is his knee.
tiniest,
Look at it.
pointiest knee I've ever seen. Don't lie.
If you look at it shot by shot,
I
that's the
watched
knee.
that over and over
No.
and over and over again, laughing hysterically because I was young
It's the knee.
and peepees were silly. And we were like, we had our little Diet Dr. Peppers, like kicking our feet, being like, oh, a peepee, over and over again.
Well, now I am going to say that if you study Disney long enough, especially older animation, when it was also almost all men in the studio, it was an old boys club, they would have pornographic and inappropriate drawings of the characters. They never made it anywhere. They were just on their walls everywhere. There's all kinds of reports and stories about that stuff. And I talk all about that in my book. I talk about it when talking about Betty Boop, because it was the same issue with Betty Boop. I do talk about it in my thesis.
What about the
as well.
Lion King?
It's pretty. Yeah, there's all kinds of
I've
controversy.
seen that with my own two eyes. Just like I saw the P2 on the priest, and nobody wants to see that. But
so this is one of the things that I write about in my dissertation, is that you have a bunch of people that are drawing these things over and over again, and when it comes to princesses and when it comes to defining their drawing, how is this the most beautiful person? They're drawing a female sexuality. They're drawing the most beautiful woman, and it's a bunch of men in a room. And that is a really important point. That's actually what studying that kind of concept is what started my dissertation. So there's so much we could talk about with this, Courtney. There's all kinds of places
let's have
to
a
go.
whole show
I
on
actually
it.
have a book on it. I have a book on it, actually. So yeah, that's a different show. But anyway.
That is a weird looking knee. That is just a weird.
It's a knee.
The city I can buy, but not that knee, right? Because that's not a knee. That's a knob.
I mean,
that's different.
The prince was hot. Someone made that up. Someone said on here, the prince was hot. So, I was only a wee lad when the film came out, and I was in lust with Eric. So I can understand why the priest would be a little happy to see him.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that.
Well, before we get,
I missed that completely. Dirty Minds, I think you guys have.
No, Patty.
Oh, this is all over
Patty,
the place,
I swear
Patty.
to
It's
God,
all
it was
over the
center
place.
frame for like a good few seconds, and it went whoop. It was not his knee.
And
Reese,
it was
center frame.
Again? Do we have a clip? Oh my God, I guess I have to watch it again because
it was really clear. The priest breaks into a song called "Pitch in a Tent" while it's happening.
Well,
It's not even subtle.
Sure did. That's where I learned about pitching a tent, was from the Little Mermaid. I was indoctrinated by the Little Mermaid. See?
whoa, that's not
And it arose. It arose while he was standing there. He wasn't moving. That's not a knee.
That's not a knee.
No, it's a peanut.
It's a poor choice by if it was supposed to be a knee, it was very poor choice.
There's no pointy knees like that.
Let me jump to number 5 because that's one of the reasons we are all here is witchcraft. And so the Disney changed a lot of things about the formula when they got here. A lot of it was the same, but they changed a whole lot of it. You know, obviously Ariel is more busty, more sexy, and more she's stronger, more determined than any of the princesses before. But the witch, Ursula, she is probably one of the most memorable witches of all the Disney witches. And she is absolutely fascinating. In so many ways, she is very much the same. She does not exist in the original story. There is a sea witch, but she's not as strong. That's not the point. It was the fight between her and the world. Ursula is the same, similar colors to her predecessors, was definitely based on them in many ways. But at the same time, she takes a completely radical turn. And I talk about that in my book. And you can, if you bear with me, I'll read a paragraph from that because it's really, really hits the point strong. As it's suggested by Richard-Lael, she was designed after divine on purpose. That is who she's supposed to be. She is supposed to be designed after a drag queen. Ursula is different because Ursula is not trying to harm the princess. She's using the princess so she can control the world. So she can dominate the sea world. She wants to get rid of Triton. She wants to be the supreme leader of everything. That is it. She's not doing it because someone wronged her or whatever. She is just wants to be in control. And in witch films, that's usually a male witch's role, not female witches. Female witches usually want to have extreme beauty, have control over a man, have control over younger women. They don't want to control the world. That's not typical. So she bends gender roles in ways that no other witch does. She has agency that no other witch does. She's completely different. And that makes her extraordinary. And that's one of the reasons people love her so much. So I'm going to just pick this paragraph out real quick and then I'll shut up. Ursula exists as the foremost evil for the conservative establishment. She is an empowered female character, embracing a gender construction often seen as aberrant. She uses feminine sexual power as allowed in conventional gender play against the patriarchy in order to bring it down. She is the bad mother, the monstrous feminine packaged in a non-traditional gender expression. As a result, Ursula is ultimately doomed, dying violently, impaled by a ship's mast as a symbolic giant phallus. Getting back to our subject. It's true. That's how she dies. Eric drives the ship's mast right into her belly.
Wow.
Real. So the patriarchy wins in the end. Of course, Disney goes back to its normal stuff. The fairy tale narrative is realized. The young woman, now aware of her sexuality and power, is safely contained by a prince husband, becoming part of his world. Disney once again created a traditional cinematic story that fits neatly into contemporary America of the 1980s. So they used this piece that was very well known then. I mean, divine and all of that stuff. And they created something that was a little bit more progressive in representation. But then they tied it all up, stuck her in the belly, and here we all back happily ever after. So I love that paragraph because it really, really is. She's so powerful, and it really, really have to study her more. So that's it. I'll be quiet.
Don't be quiet.
She's
Don't
great.
be quiet.
Ursula is great.
She is. Those poor unfortunate souls. I'm trying not to sing so hard, Richard.
I was the same thing.
And do I help them?
She was nasty.
Yes, I do.
She wasn't kidding when they called her a witch.
And you know what? I will say, Disney, I know. Disney, I know. But I will say, oftentimes I'll say, you've got your looks, your pretty face, and don't underestimate the importance of body.
The men out there don't like a lot of chatter.
I will oftentimes just use the portion of the body language, and some of these younger people go, I'm like, it's the Little Mermaid, 1989. Are you kidding me?
Right. She's so fabulous.
She's fabulous.
Okay, who wants to go next? Jason.
Uh-oh.
I have a confession to make. So while I thought I had watched this movie at some point, because I knew all the songs, I knew the names of most of the characters, I don't think I'd ever watched this all the way through until today. It was just something I would see bits and pieces of here and there. And I know that everyone credits this as the Disney revival in animation, but I was surprised at how much it still looked like a lot of the 80s and 70s films. You know, and it had the bumbling seagull in it, which really felt to me like something from Disney's past, more so than what would become when we would get to Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Lion King, which felt a little fresh. This still felt like a lot of that formula I would see from the 70s and 80s. Now, granted, the songs are a lot better. There's a lot of good in it, but I was expecting it to like pop a little bit more, and it's not bad. So don't hex me yet. But I just expected it to pop a little bit more all the way through the movie, and it didn't really do that as much as I thought it might for me. I still liked it. It's better than Oliver and Company and The Great Mouse Detective and all that. But I don't think it's as good as some of those later movies that would come after.
Thank you.
I loved that movie when I was a kid. I'm just gonna say that. We'll
I
just
was a
leave that
Shaggy
alone and move
DA
on.
guy all the way.
Is that Aaron Goodwin? It says I have a question.
Okay, go, Aaron. Are you Aaron? You're a different.
I don't know.
Don't know.
I can't. So, Aaron, ask your question in the comments. We'll listen.
Or we'll hex you, or we'll answer it. It'll be one of the two.
Together. All right. I probably had never seen it either, because don't hex me. I've never been a big animated person, but I did like it, and I do have an issue though. I think I need to be a spokesperson for animated violence. I don't like it. It's weird because I'm the person who's never seen Bambi, never will, because I know that's not good. I'm that person. I'm the person who can't see cruelty to animals of any kind. And I'm not, I like horror, but I like spooky horror, not slasher horror. But it seems that now that I'm getting used to animated with all you guys, cartoons animated are meaner than real people. Bump, 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 hit, hit, hit. I was worried about the fish getting stuck in the portal. It's like, the shark is coming, and now you're going to hurt the shark. I'm sitting here, more than I ever realized. I mean, I realized, I'm nuts on such things, but for children, I think there's too much animated violence. Am I weird? I think I'm weird. But
I mean, Marge Simpson would agree. She did this whole thing.
Well, you know what? I think the violence you're seeing in this animated is no worse or better than what you would see in Looney Tunes. I mean, they had whole pianos dropped on their heads. And like anvils. Yes. I mean, how many times did Wile E. Coyote get smacked?
And I would turn it off.
I was never a big Looney Tunes fan precisely because of the amount of violence.
I think
growing up, it was cartoon Three Stooges, which I also didn't care for at all. I always thought Disney cartoons were a little less violent, especially the shorts, which is probably why I always enjoyed those more than I ever did, Bugs Bunny and things. It was just so mean-spirited. Bugs especially. What a jerk.
Yeah.
What a jerk.
I love Bugs Bunny. I will defend Looney Tunes over Disney any day.
I love Looney Tunes. Plus, it was like not reality. If you were some kid watching it, you think you could go hit somebody on the head or push them through a thing, or the evil sharks are going to get them. There must not have been the only two cartoons I like. I've been around a long time. Felix the Cat and Casper the ghost, which makes sense. I'm a cat person and I hunt ghosts for a living, but I don't think there was violence in either of those.
Well, in Casper there was a little bit. The three other ghosts, Stretch, Fatso,
The three
yeah,
nannies.
they were a little bit violent with each other and also with Casper.
But he was friendly.
He was
Casper was always friendly.
friendly
And
ghost.
sometimes really sad.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
the beating. And this one, even though I know it wasn't about that, I think the sharks and the little fish in the portal and eating crabs, this makes me not want to eat crab. I eat crabs. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan or anything. That's it. Move on.
Don't watch Lion King. Do not
I
watch
will not
Lion
watch
King.
Lion King. I will not watch Lion King. It's all right. Courtney.
That's me. All right. So the Little Mermaid, first of all, let's not go there with Bambi in the comments. I'm going to go there for a second because Bambi was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater. And I was a teeny tiny baby. And I stood up and I screamed, his mom's dead. And then I wasn't allowed to go to the movies for a while. But as another youngin, as another small child, during times of family gatherings, I loved The Little Mermaid so much that I knew all the words to all the songs, and I had this little toy cash register, and it had a little blue microphone to call people to clean up on aisle 6. And I would take the little blue microphone, and I would gather all of the adults, and I would make them stand in a circle around me, and God knows they did it. And I would belt Part of Your World at the top of my lungs at like 4 years old. And that was it. That was just my whole identity for a very long time. So I loved
When we
it.
do Witches Movie Coven live, Courtney will be performing this.
Yeah.
And we will stand in a circle around her.
She will.
I was doing it earlier, and I had all the Black Phillips in a pentagram around me.
The best part is when she does it
Perfect.
live, we're going to get her a little blue microphone from the little cash register, and she can sing it from one of those.
Somewhere in the depths of somewhere, there is a VHS tape with a recording on it of me doing that. Anyway, then fast forward to my teenage years. I already talked about that. Not even teenage, like middle school, when my friend and I after school would drink Diet Dr. Peppers, and we'd watch movies, and we heard about the scandal of the priest in The Little Mermaid, and we would watch it over and over and over again and be like, there it goes, right? So excited. Now as an adult, there he is, loud and proud. Happy Pride Month to that priest. Anyway. But as an adult watching it, like when I showed it to Nathan for the first time, I have never wanted, I feel like I have this reaction to all the Disney princesses now, most of them at least, but like, you're 16 or however old you are, 14 or whatever, you're a teenager and you need to stop. And I realized I was old in that moment when I was siding with the Disney dads and not, and if I swear to God, if she says, but daddy, I love him one more time, like, no, absolutely not. This is just as bad as Beauty and the Beast, aka Stockholm Syndrome, the musical. You don't love him. You met him for 4 seconds, just like Snow White when he leaned over the well next to you and sang for 4 seconds. He's not your true love. And the majority of this movie that could have been avoided had someone handed her a piece of paper. And don't tell me she couldn't write because she signed her own name. So she knows the alphabet. Okay. So she could have written down anything. She could have made any kind of emotion, any kind of anything, whatever. I know, but it's ridiculous. And it makes me crazy because also go back to the ocean. Your father's right. So I have a love-hate relationship with this movie.
Your criticisms are valid, Courtney.
I know.
They're completely valid.
I must say I did like the music and I did like the score itself. I mean, it was a quality, beautiful film. I agree wholeheartedly on that.
But also, having said all that, I love this movie. I will watch it over and over and over again. I will sing the songs that are on playlists that I listen to in my car. I don't care. I'll belt them because it's amazing. And Ursula, just like the Wicked Witch in Snow White, Ursula is just an icon, and I love her, and she's amazing, and she is what makes the movie incredible. And I didn't put two and two together that the mast spearing her was phallic, but
Yeah.
it makes sense with all of the weens in the movie. So there it is.
I get that. I really, I always, even then, sided with Ursula. I always felt badly that she met her demise. I mean, get it. You know, all she wanted was to shop. And doesn't she ache and yearn and shop and deserve jewelry? I mean, I get it. I love her. I love Ursula. I have kind of a story. I debated on whether or not I should say, but you know what? It's been a long enough time. I think I will tell the story about Ursula. I was in Vegas, and the bartender said, Happy Pride Month, by the way. The bartender, he was one who would know who Divine was. And he looked up, and coming down the escalator was a blonde woman, large blonde woman in a tight pink dress. And he goes, "Oh my God, that woman looks like Divine." And sure enough, that woman comes down the escalator and she saunters up to the bar. And I turn to her and I say, "My dear, you look divine." And she goes, "Oh, thank you." The bartender's going, "I can't believe you told her to her face she looked like a drag queen." Well,
some pretty drag queens, though. I mean, there's some very pretty drag queens.
there's some very.
It's not necessarily an insult.
I love Divine. I love
Yeah.
Divine in Hairspray. I love Divine in Pink Flamingo. I love Divine. There's nothing not to love about her.
Did she ever sue them for this?
There you go. No, it was on purpose. I think she was part of it.
So she got compensated for.
I don't remember, but there was no suit. I mean, they didn't just do it just for she was somehow connected, and I just don't remember how. I would think there would be some kind of compensation, but yeah, I'd have to go back to my old notes. But it was on purpose. I'm going to tell you real quick is that by the time growing up a big Disney fan, I'd seen the movies over and over and over and over again. But I was so disenchanted with Disney by the late 80s. I was so frustrated. I didn't see The Great Mouse Detective till years later. I didn't go see Oliver and Company until years later when I had kids. I was just so over it because I was so disappointed. I didn't go see The Little Mermaid in the theaters because I knew it was just going to be another, piece of crap movie that they made, just like all the other ones, and I was going to be disappointed. And then I heard from people it's amazing, and I heard about the music, and being a massive Broadway fan, I was like, whoa, hold on a second now. So I went and saw it. I was blown away. Then, they follow with Beauty and the Beast. They follow with Aladdin, Lion King, and then a little bit of a downturn going into Pocahontas and Hunchback and all that stuff. But it was a combination of the Princess fairy tale, the Broadway musical aesthetic, and the sound and everything I was sold. I was back. I was like, yes, I loved it. And when my children watched them, my daughter would make me sing the song Part of Her World to her when she would go to sleep sometimes, and I'd sing it over and over to her, and we'd watch it. And I can sit here and I can tell you I wrote a thesis on criticizing Disney animated films for their misogyny and problematic issues and racism, all this stuff over and over. So I can bring all of that up, but in the end, I will sit and watch this movie and I will sing the songs along with Courtney Buckley all day, every day. Get out your blue mics. Let's go.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Any other comments, thoughts?
Aaron was talking about, if it's our Aaron, I don't know, but was talking about that there are ghosts in the, I have to scroll back a little bit. There were ghosts in the film.
Not this one.
I didn't see any myself, but to be fair, I didn't go back and rewatch it. But there was something about spirits in film, and I mean, that can happen. I don't know if I saw that in this one, but they can happen.
Well, they had the souls, the little soul garden.
Well, there were souls in that one.
And you want to know what's really weird and kind of funny about that? I just thought of this. So when we were doing Scared and Alone at Stimson Hospital, and I did the tour beforehand, and we took a picture in a like 400-year-old mirror, whatever it was. There was this horrific thing in the mirror and in the picture, and it looked like one of the souls from the garden, from Ursula's garden, and that was the only way I could describe it. And I swear to God, that thing followed me around all night. But that's exactly what it was like.
I just want to say that watching this movie for like all the way through for the first time, I thought there were some scenes that were really exciting, and I was surprised by how excited I got while watching them. Like when Eric's ship is catching on fire and it's going under the sea, haha. And then she saves him. But like the dramatic music and things and the way it was animated was really like, wow, this is like an action adventure film. And then of course at the end, though I did not quite have like the phallic connections that Heather did, but I see them now. But that also was really exciting. You think of the Little Mermaid and you think of sort of the romance part of it, or you think of the priest who's singing, pitching a tent. You think of those things. But wow, I mean, there was some really great action in this movie.
Yeah, and Under the Sea was one of the biggest hits. I mean, everybody was singing it when it was out. I mean, it was just, the Under the Sea and yeah, no, it was, what's the other one? Oh, not Les Poissons. That wasn't as big, but yeah, it was Under the Sea.
I like the one that affects me the most is, look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? I'm not going to sing because we don't have the rights to.
Les Poissons is just Be Our Guest. It's like an early version of Be Our Guest. You can feel that the bones of Be Our Guest is in that song. Like it was a test ground for some of the tunes that became Beauty and the Beast. And there are a few other moments in the movie where I heard the Beauty and the Beast score. Now, obviously, technically, I guess Beauty and the Beast is ripping off the Little Mermaid, but they're very, very similar scores, and the songs are very, very similar in both films. I know they're composed by the same people, but wow, that song about eating crabs and trying to kill them like the Swedish chef, that is the same song as Be Our Guest.
Disney loves to repeat itself, and it gets worse and worse over the years, in my opinion. It's just, it becomes almost painful. Like, okay, you're doing this again, and you're making that joke again. But so yeah, I mean, that follows. They're following. Beauty and the Beast was following the formula again. They tried to do it. Sort of. They don't have a witch in that one, but they kind of do right at the beginning.
Again, the score was so good, but I noticed the similarity in the songs very much so, like Be Our Guest. And I'm not the expert on such things like you guys are. But I must say, all the years I worked with Richard Sherman doing original shows at the Variety Arts Center, that we were doing 2 shows a night, all this stuff, they were all familiar of stuff we'd already seen in his movies. So you repeat things that are good, I guess. It's like, this sounds so much like, I just saw Dick Van Dyke doing this in another show. But we would be doing it on stage. It was cool.
There's nothing new under the sun, right?
And what are you going to do? Sue yourself?
Right.
Oh, I'm plagiarizing myself. Who cares?
I think Belle does want to sing.
Oh my God. Oh. Now I don't want to ever again.
All my girls breaking out.
Don't say that they're breaking out.
Nope.
Oh my God.
Oh, I wish we could sing now. I do.
Yeah, me too. Can we just sing after when we're not live
Well,
anymore?
We
Just to get
could,
it up.
and we could also sing happy birthday because it's Heather's birthday.
No,
Like,
we're terrible at that. We're
Because
so bad
that
at that.
always
No.
works really well.
Please no.
I think we have a
No.
clip of that from the last time we did it.
No,
Oh,
we,
we
we
should
don't.
go.
We have words
I'm
that we
sure we
sang the
don't.
last time it was your birthday.
I'm good. I'm good. Just say happy birthday.
All right,
I'm
we are
fine.
moving on then. We'd love to sing for your birthday, Heather. Do you have any quotes
you.
on this baby, Miss Courtney?
Oh boy, do I. All right, hold on.
Don't get too excited.
No. My favorite quote of the whole movie is when they're gonna sing Kiss the Girl, which also, like, please, that is so the grape word. Okay, I don't like it. But anyway, before they're doing it, and when they're in the little boat, Scuttle says, okay, all right, this calls for a little vocal romantic stimulation. Stand back. And he goes, wah, wah, wah. And it makes me laugh. And then
It's very
Prince Eric
funny.
says, wow, someone should find that poor animal and put it out of its misery. Then most of my quotes are about Scuttle because he's my favorite, but he's talking about the pipe, I think is the pipe, that was what he's saying. But now the Snarfblat dates back to prehistoric times when humans would sit around and stare at each other all day. Got very boring, so they invented the Snarfblat to make fine music. Allow me. And then he blows in the pipe, and then seaweed pops out.
I so want you to do a Buddy Hackett accent.
I'm not doing it. Sebastian says, Ariel, listen to me. The human world is a mess. Life under the sea is better than anything they got up there. And man, isn't that the truth? And then Sebastian's little mental breakdown after Ariel's a human, and he says, just look at her on human legs. My nerves are shot. This is a catastrophe. What would her father say? I'll tell you what her father'd say. He'd say he's going to kill himself a crab. That's what her father'd say. I'm going to march myself straight home now and tell him, just like I should have done the minute. And then she picks him up and she shakes her head. And don't you shake your head at me, young lady. Maybe there's still time. If we could get that witch to give you back your voice, you could go home with all the normal fish and just be miserable for the rest of your life. All right, I'll try to help you find that prince. Boy, what a soft shell I'm turning out to be. And then he says, teenagers, they think they know everything. You give them an inch, they swim all over you. And then I thought this was a fun little inclusion. When Eric is coming back to life on the beach, Grimsby says, you really delight in these sadistic strains on my blood pressure, don't you? So I thought that was fun. And then, of course, there's every single time that Ariel says, but Daddy, I love him. Or Daddy, I don't want to live. Like, just stop talking.
What a brat.
Right. The worst. And then
At least she does.
right.
Talk.
Well, and then the last one I have is one that no matter what, when I watch this movie, whether I'm upset at Ariel or I'm distracted by the church boner, this exchange almost brings me to tears, and sometimes does. And it's at the very end when King Triton is talking to Sebastian, and he says, she really does love him, doesn't she, Sebastian? And Sebastian says, well, it's like I always say, Your Majesty, children got to be free to lead their own lives. And Triton says, you always say that? Then I guess there's just one problem left. And Sebastian says, and what's that, Your Majesty? And King Triton says, how much I'm going to miss her.
Oh,
I mean, they can always just meet, right? She just takes a boat out. He kind of swims up. They hang out. I mean,
fish food in the water.
yeah.
Scuba dive. Scuba
Right.
dive.
She can come out for a little bit before she has to go back in.
Yeah, I didn't understand why she had to leave everything behind. And the humans now
Because
know all
Disney is
about
misogynistic.
the mermaid stuff, right? I mean, they get married and all the mermaids are there, like waving hello. Yeah, maybe they could open up some trade routes or something between the two kingdoms.
Perhaps. Thank you. Thank you, Courtney. That was beautiful and heartfelt.
You're welcome.
Jason, Mr. Mankey, do we have a
Oh God.
made movie moment?
We have something tonight, that's for sure. It had been 12 long years since Ariel's rash decision. In her head, she heard a sarcastic laugh. I was in love, she smirked, in love with a man she had known for all of 4 days. And Eric had not been much older. They had married as children. Truly engaged parents would have waved at least a few warning flags at the couple. Ariel clapped her hands and shouted, more wine, at her servants. It was a refrain the servants were quite used to. The now queen consumed 3 or 4 bottles a day. It was one of the few things that numbed the pain she felt inside. Handed a fresh glass, Ariel sloshed the liquid around before taking a long sip. Wine was one of the advantages to living as a human, she thought, maybe the only one. Living under the sea, sobriety was practically dictated by circumstance. It was near impossible to drink anything but salt water in the depths of the ocean. At least Eric wasn't around today to disrupt her drinking. She knew that her husband probably loved her in some sort of way, but he also loved gambling and his mistresses. Both of Eric's hobbies had destabilized their small country's finances. At least his interest in other women kept him out of the castle, giving Ariel time to herself. After their wedding, the now queen had come to find out that Eric routinely fell in love with women on a whim, and he had a certain type too. The woman before Ariel had been a red-haired siren with webbed toes, and the one before that had hailed from the fairy kingdom and sported a lovely set of wings. And post-marriage, Eric often asked if Ariel might be able to turn her legs back into a tail. He had a type. Ariel liked to think of Eric's conquests both before and after her as women, but she really knew that most of them were girls. Eric felt like anyone over the age of 24 was ready for the retirement home. Ariel set her wine down and picked up a crab cake. Delicious, she thought, as she savored the crab's flaky flesh. Just after wine, fresh seafood had become Ariel's favorite indulgence as a human. Her father, King Triton, had always harped on her that the sea creatures are our subjects too, and had legislated a strict vegetarian diet consisting solely of seaweed. Had she stayed a mermaid, she would have gotten rid of her father's silly rules and traded her fish citizens for barrels of wine. The sea had lots of dopey little angelfish. No one would miss those annoying flounders. How to drink the wine? She knew she would have figured it out. She took another bite of her crab cake. She bit in with extra relish. Deep down, she was hopeful that her next meal of crab was that ridiculous Sebastian. As an advisor to her father, maybe he should have cautioned her about the life she was about to lead. Be a human, fall in love with a womanizer, give birth to 3 bratty kids, and have nothing in common with anyone else around you. At least Triton would have eventually died, freeing her from the grasp of her overprotective father. Now she just drank away her days, longing for something more meaningful than the pretty prison she found herself locked in. Of course, none of her former friends made her blood pressure race more than that ridiculous Scuttle. That lying sack of seagull dung had filled her young head with romantic notions of humans and was the reason for her predicament. At least her husband had been okay with her plan to exterminate all of what she called the rats of the air in their kingdom. When her servant served her Scuttle's head on a platter, it was one of her happiest days on the surface world. Servants, more wine, she yelled. There were 11 hours still left in the day, and she was far too sober this morning.
Fanfic.
I think we need a shirt of Scuttle's head on a platter. No comments. Just that. And a glass of wine next to it.
Yeah.
Well done, Jason.
Well done, Jason. I like
No hexes.
quoted, this is why you have 10 books. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, we have one more thing to do, and that's rate. We vote. We vote. Wands up, wands down. I'm going to use a fish because I can't find my mermaid.
Oh God, Heather, no.
Oh, Heather, no.
Don't shake it.
A
Stop.
pox upon our house. Why?
Please.
Why?
Help, help. It's looking at me. I don't like it.
It is looking at you, Courtney. No one else.
No.
It's looking at
I
you.
don't like it.
I've been using this now for several weeks, and you guys are just
No,
complaining
I
now.
complain
Heather
every
Greene is
time.
no longer our friend. She's creepy.
It's Scuttle's head upon
Ari
a
said
platter.
that she's
That's-
sure that you're still her friend, but you know.
So I'm fish up, wand up, cheerleader, baton twirler, wand. Richard, these are very.
It's my pen because she signs the pen. I can like it for parts of it, but I also hate it, so I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go.
That's valid.
Okay, that's valid. So what about everybody out there? Wands up. We got another in between from Christy. That's a great one. Wand's way up. Wand is up. Wand is up. Neutral for the art and music. I agree. Art and music.
The priest's wand is up.
Yeah, the priest gave it a ones up for sure from the get-go.
I don't know how I missed that now.
I don't know either.
We didn't mention the redo that Disney did more recently and all its controversies. Maybe we'll add that to the list to do another time. I know someone was mentioning it earlier to do a comparison. Maybe we'll put that on for a future show to revisit
Heather's
that
next
and
birthday. Woo!
Okay.
That
might
sounds
happen.
good. So, all right. And what about next week as we're closing to the end of things? What film are we doing next week, Miss Heather?
To catch
Predator.
To catch a deadly spell? That doesn't sound right.
All right, Chris Hansen.
What? It's 1991. To cast a deadly spell. Sorry, not to cast to catch a deadly
Wow.
spell. That's a different
That's
movie.
what happens every week on the Witches Movie Coven.
The 1991 To Cast a Deadly Spell. I'm wondering if Patti and Jason want to talk about what they're going to be doing starting next week. Not to jump in and change the subject, but I think you guys might be presenting on your books next week.
I got to do that next week.
That's
A free thing that all of our Coven members can go watch.
Yes, on my very first time as a brand new Llewellyn author, I'm doing LlewelynCon, or we are doing LlewelynCon. So I'm very excited. I'm going to be talking about haunted dolls. This half of my doll craft book. You guys, I have a beautiful, beautiful foreword by Heather herself, because it's doll queen right there. You guys know that. So yes. So I'm thrilled to be doing LlewelynCon with you, Jason.
Yes, I forgot. I'll be doing LlewelynCon on June 12th on my wife's birthday, ruining her birthday because now our walk to the beach has been canceled because I will be at LlewelynCon talking about early witchcraft. So it'll be great for everyone else, but less great for me because now I realize I'm in trouble.
Oh no.
So the whole day, I bet you could fit the beach and LlewelynCon.
I hope so.
Yes, I think you can.
But I'm also going to one of my other friends' birthday parties that night because she originally was going to be out of town. So I'm failing in all facets as a husband.
You can go to LlewelynCon, Llewellyn.com to find out the dates. It's from June. It's 10 days worth. Starts on the new moon, June 11th through the June 20th. I don't remember what date. Jason's the first day.
I'll tell you what day I am.
Let's hope it's the.
I think you are. I think you're the 11th. The schedule's on the site. I think you're the last one on the first day. I don't remember what Patti is, but it's free. And there's 4 people a day, and you can catch them and a couple people who have also guested on our show. So
sweet, it's not my wife's birthday. I will remain married. Will remain married. Woo!
Will remain married.
LlewelynCon. Oh, I'm doing it on the 14th. On the 14th at 11 a.m.
1 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern on the 14th. Is that the same day you're doing, Jason?
I will be on June 11th at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific. So, yay.
So you can go to the beach on the 14th.
so I can go to the beach on the next day with my wife and remain married. This is going to work out just fine. Thank you, Llewellyn. I'm sorry for the bad things I said about you earlier in the show.
All right. Well, it is that time. Anybody in Southern California, go to Pacific Coast Paracon this weekend. I will be doing there. I will be having my new books there, Dollcraft, my old book, doing a seance, doing ghost hunts. Look up PacificCoastParacon.com. Anybody else got anything coming up?
I will be.
Jason?
Mystic South.
No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Jason.
Go ahead, Heather.
No, Mystic South, mid-July. Come on, join
I'll
us.
be at the Eight Winds Druid Festival just outside of Sacramento, California this weekend. And then June 21st, I will be at the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft in Cleveland, Ohio, celebrating the release of the Raymond Buckland biography. And June 27th at Crazy Wisdom Bookstore in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yay. So come see all of us, follow all of us, like all of us, hang out with us on social media. We're nice people all the rest of the week, I promise. Yeah. So we have one more. Yes, Jason, you have your hand up.
No. I'm just ready to cackle. I'm excited.
You ready to go? Okay, 1,
Yeah.
2, 3. Here we go.
Sorry.